StrayAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn discipline to show up day after day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, we are on part 5 of our ongoing series of how to be a wolf. Before we get started, 2 things: my daily motivation, Monday motivation message. Once we start sending those out again, if you want to be getting them, just be a member of my texting community. Text me at my number 305-384-6894. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. You are ready to step your game up. You're ready to take things to another level, and you want to do it now, not later. So go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. That link's down below in the description as well. And that's where you can have me as your direct coach. That's where you can access all of our best trainings and systems on mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability for full implementation of producing results consistently at the highest possible level. Again, that's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Moving into our points here today. Again, we are picking up where we left off our series on how to be a wolf. We're picking up on point number 13. Know how to both lead and follow. Being that wolves, and especially humans, operate within groups of other individuals, you need to have the ability to both lead people and to follow. Because sometimes you may be in a leadership position, but other times you may be in the follower position where you're a subordinate, you're a member of the team, the rank and file. Because there are times when you will find yourself in either position. Rare is the person who is always in a leadership position throughout all of life and they never have to follow. Most people have to learn to follow first before they become leaders, and you work their way up. Maybe it would have been like that, back in the days of kings and queens. A kid is born as the heir to the throne, and then he becomes the king when he's the prince, and then he becomes the king when he's 15, and then he just rules as a king until he dies and never has to learn how to follow. Most of us don't live that type of life. And some places those things do still exist, but most humans are not going to live that way. In the United States, that's not what we do, at least as of this recording. So the better you know how to be a soldier, the better prepared you will be to be a general. The better you know how to be a soldier, the better prepared you will be to be a general. For example, many of my college teammates, people I played sports with in college, and I played under 3 different coaches. So it was like 3 different regimes of players that I played with. Many of them went on to become coaches in basketball after being players in basketball. Some of them coaching at the high school level, some of them coaching at the collegiate level, some of them at even younger level, at youth levels. And I would bet, if I was to ask any of them, that it's true that many of them took the lessons that they learned from the coaches that we played together for, the good stuff, and they applied that to their lives as coaches. And they also took the stuff where our coaches kind of screwed up and dropped the ball and didn't do well, and made sure that they don't make those same mistakes that our past coaches made. For example, we talk about knowing how to lead and knowing how to follow. Knowing how to lead does not necessarily mean just you bossing people around and telling them what to do. That can be part of leadership. That's really being a boss more than it is being a leader. But leadership is also about what we talked about the previous point and from yesterday's masterclass, was knowing your personnel. And knowing your personnel means knowing, for example, as a leader, who you can yell at in front of the whole team, and knowing who you need to take aside and give them some feedback quietly, because if you yell at them in front of everybody, you may lose them mentally in the process. The last coach I played for in college, he would violate this and make this mistake over and over and over again. He would identify some player who had made a mistake, even where they actually made a mistake or they didn't, and he would kind of extrapolate whatever negative stuff he had in his head already about that player, and he would just unload on the player in front of the whole team. He would do it with anybody. He was equal opportunity. He was equal opportunity and just unloading on any player anytime that something came up that player had made a mistake and the coach had identified that the player was wrong. Now, there are some players who you could do this to and it was all right. They could take it and it didn't really affect them in a negative way. There are other players who, if you did this, it would destroy them, and the player you could barely count on this player again for the next week, because he had mentally put them in a position, not only beating them down with his words, but also embarrassing them in front of the team. And again, some people are more prone to embarrassment than others. So you have to be careful of these things. And when you're a leader, you got to know who you can do what with and to, and who you shouldn't do it with and to, Because again, your job as the leader is not just to get your point across, even if you are correct. It's to make sure that you are putting everybody on your team in the best position to be successful, which I just talked about in the last point from yesterday's episode, which is knowing your personnel. You don't want to put someone who doesn't have a skill in a position where they need a certain skill, because all they're going to do is fail. It's going to hurt the whole team. It's going to make them look bad, and everybody fails. Everybody suffers because of it, because the leader didn't do their job. So again, when you're in a leadership position, you wolves out there through this series, you got to make sure that you're discerning and smart about these choices that you make. So when you have been in a soldier position, this is the reason why I brought all of this up. Like the players who I played with who are now coaches, you've been a soldier. So now you're better prepared to be a general because you saw it done the right way. You also saw it done the wrong way, right? And many players who I know who are coaches these days, let's say if you're the head coach, well, before you were a head coach, you were an assistant coach, right? I know there are a lot of coaches who listen to this show, not just in basketball, not all just people who I played with, but many of you who are coaches, if you're a head coach now, you probably have some experience being an assistant coach. So you picked up the good stuff that the head coach you were working under did, or coaches you worked under, you picked up some of their good stuff. And then if they did some nonsense that you didn't agree with, maybe you couldn't say anything because you were in a subordinate position then, but you definitely made sure you didn't do that and make that same mistake now that you're the person in charge. So again, this is why it's good to be a soldier first before you become a general, because you can notice all the good stuff to copy and you can notice all the bad stuff to not copy, and make sure that you are guarded against that. Because you know exactly also, when you've been a soldier, you know what the soldiers are going through. This is one of the reasons why a lot of coaches in sports, for example, used to be players of that exact same sport. And why is this? Because you know exactly what the soldiers are going through. You know what it feels like to be sitting on the bench. You know what it feels like to practice every day. You know what it feels like to be the best player on the team, or whatever the situation is, because you have done it yourself. Doesn't mean you had to have done it as well as the players you're coaching, but it just means that you've done it, period. Down here in Miami, for example, the head coach of the Miami Heat is a guy named Eric Spoelstra. He is widely recognized as one of the best coaches in the NBA. Eric Spoelstra was a basketball player. A lot of people don't remember him from being a player. I never heard of him as a player because he had played at I don't know what level of college ball he played, but he did play college basketball, but it wasn't a super high level. And I think he played a little bit of overseas pro basketball, but then while he was still in his 20s, he went and got into the coaching space, and he was working I believe he was working in the video room for the Miami Heat, was basically editing video back when it was VHS tape. That's how low he started on the totem pole. And he slowly just worked himself up the totem pole, eventually became an assistant coach, and eventually became the head coach. And here we are. He's still the head coach, at least as of today's recording. The point is, he has some experience playing. So even though he was never on the level of Alonzo Mourning and Dwayne Wade, he can still coach Alonzo Mourning and Dwayne Wade because he has a understanding of what it's like to be a player on the team, even though he was never that level of player. So this is what I'm saying to all of you. Be a soldier. Being a soldier and knowing how to be a soldier prepares you to be a general. So you know exactly what they're going through, exactly what they're supposed to be doing. You can give them better orders. You can better ensure that they're following through because you know exactly what it looks like when they do. And if you have always been in a following position but never in a leadership position, my suggestion to you is to look for and take advantage of any opportunity that is offered you to experience leadership so you can know what it feels like to be in that number one spot. It doesn't even matter who or what you're leading in. You just need to get experience doing it. Anytime you're offered an opportunity to lead, I suggest that you take it if you are developing yourself. I was the president of Toastmasters in Miami Beach for about a year and a half this is right when I stopped playing basketball, around 2015. And the only reason I took the leadership position is it was offered to me by the current president, who said they were going to need to stop. They were going to need to scale back because they just didn't have the time to commit to it. The only reason I accepted it is I was talking to a mentor of mine, and she said to me, yeah, you should take it. And she said, it just gives you an opportunity, because you just need to get that opportunity to lead and learn how to lead people. It's not like it was any money to be made from doing it. And it's not like I wanted to build a career out of it, which I did not. But the fact that I got to experience leading was very beneficial for me, because from that position, you see things a lot differently than when you're just a member. And that absolutely did happen. So again, get as much leadership experience as you can get so that you are prepared to be a general when your real opportunity comes. Moving on, point number 14. We're talking here today about how to be more of a wolf, an ongoing series. Number 14, be aware of possible threats. Wild animals deal with real threats, real life threats. Again, traps, hunters, fellow predators. If they underestimate or are unaware of a threat, that can mean death for an animal who's not paying attention. Again, humans, you all walking around not paying attention, nothing bad happens to you. But in the wild, you ain't paying attention. That's it. It's over. So you, safe human, usually is not subject to death by ignoring or being unaware of a threat. But you should still sharpen your perspicacity so that you are noticing what is happening around you and you are not walking around oblivious. Again, I mentioned these people walking around staring at their phones and not seeing what's around you. To be aware of threats, you first have to determine what a threat means for you, because what is a threat to me may not be a threat to you. So if you are running a business, for example, a threat might be a day in which you didn't get any new customers, or you didn't expand your email list, or somebody's payments didn't go through. That's a threat to you and you got to fix it. Or maybe a quarter in which you didn't experience as much growth as you've expected. And if you're the CEO and the stock market analysis doesn't look good, that might mean that your head's going to be on the chopping block next week. So for others, it might mean, hey, there are bills that need to be paid and they're piling up and they're starting to come overdue and you need to take care of them. Or maybe a hostile colleague in the office who is spreading bad information about you to the higher ups. You need to decide or identify what the threats are to you. This is a form of what they call a SWOT analysis. For those of you who haven't heard of it, that's SWOT, not AT. SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I discussed this in episode 1963. You want to know these things: your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And the more aware you are of them, the better you can make decisions in the moment about what to do and what not to do. Animals, without consciously thinking about it, are consistently doing SWOT analyses of themselves. They know their strengths, they know their weaknesses, they know what the opportunities are, and they recognize the threats. They recognize and take advantage of opportunity, and they recognize and avoid threats. They do it instinctively. Human beings, you have to remind yourself and retrain yourself to do this, because as kids, we often don't recognize what a threat is. We learn what a threat is. Animals are born with this instinctively, but humans, we are not. So you have to train yourself on it, and then you got to keep yourself focused on it so you don't slip up. Humans are prone to slipping up, especially in our ever distracting world that we're living in right now. So you need to be aware of these things, whatever those threats are, and then strategize as to what to do about them. Again, if a wild animal, let's say a wolf, notices an opportunity, what does the wolf do? He immediately takes advantage of the opportunity. Doesn't wait, doesn't think about it, doesn't say, maybe it'll be available tomorrow. If it's available today, I'll get it tomorrow. That's how humans think. Okay, I'm suggesting you be a wolf. All right, remember what this series is about: being a wolf. You take advantage of the opportunity right now as if you believe and know that just because it's here today does not mean it'll be here tomorrow, which is a mindset that I would suggest, any of you listening to this, I would suggest you adopt this mindset, because many human beings make the mistake of thinking that just because they have something available now that is always going to be available. That's false. That's not true. All right, any of you think about it. How many of you have had an opportunity in your face, didn't take it because you were fat and happy and decided to be lazy and complacent, and then that same opportunity that you thought would always be there, you've never got it again? How many of you ever had that happen? Of course you have. Because you decided to not be opportunistic and take advantage of the opportunity in front of you. How many of you have ever had a threat in front of you, whatever you consider to be a threat, ignored it, and then that threat ended up hurting you because you just weren't urgent about dealing with the threat? Wild animals don't make this mistake. Give you an example. You've all watched maybe YouTube or National Geographic, where they show you the big cats out there hunting, like lions, for example, out there hunting and killing. So let's say there's a lion out there who has just caught and eaten a meal, just got a meal, caught a deer or a gazelle and ate it, and it's in pretty good shape. It ate, it kind of slept off the meal, is good. Just by eating that gazelle, that lion is going to be fed for it can live for at least another 2 weeks just off the fact that it killed that gazelle, right? Now, when a lion wakes up from its siesta, from eating the meal, it notices a wild boar walking by, idling by, and the wild boar doesn't even notice that the lion is there. What is that lion going to do? Now remember, the lion just ate a gazelle, and that gazelle had enough meat to sustain the lion for another 2 weeks. But there's a wild boar right there within striking distance of the lion. What's the lion going to do? First, let's talk about what the human would do. What do you think a human would do in that situation? They just ate, they're good. Many humans would say, okay, well, I just made a sale. I just hit my quota for the week. I don't need to go get that extra sale. It might take a little bit of work. I don't really feel like it. I'm tired. I'm good. Let me just relax and do nothing. That's how many humans tend to look at things, because we allow ourselves to get into this false sense of complacency and lose our sense of urgency just because something worked a minute ago. We don't think about, well, I don't need to do anything right now. I'm good. I can just relax and chill and kick my feet up. What would the lion do? When I ask the question, all of you know the answer. The lion instinctively is going to go kill that wild boar and eat it. and maybe it'll store it away somewhere where maybe nobody else can get to it. But the lion's not going to let that wild boar opportunity just walk right in front of it and do nothing. It's going to go kill it and eat it, even if it just ate. All right, even if it just ate, if there's an opportunity to kill something else and eat it, it's going to go eat it. Why? Because of the lion. That's what lions do. And they immediately go and do it. I want you to put yourself in this mind frame of being the predator who's just going to go do it regardless of what just happened before. Whether you just missed the meal, you just missed your last 10, or you just ate, you're still going to go do the thing because it's your instinct to go do it. So again, you have to have the mentality of going and getting it immediately, even if you just had something work for you, you still need to go after the next one. All right. And wild animals, remember, they don't have time to think about and hope that things change on their own the way that human beings do. You got to be aware of what's around you. You got to be aware of the threats around you. And you need to strategize as to what to do about those threats immediately, what to do about your opportunities immediately, while staying away from your weaknesses and utilizing your strengths. That's what predators do. Moving on to point number 15. Today's topic, once again, is how to be a wolf. Number 15, dominate your space. Most wild animals, specifically predators, habitually and instinctively mark their territories. Why do they do that? They do mark their territories to let the other predators out there know that this space belongs to me, and if you want to come into this space, then you're going to have to deal with me. And predators who mark their territory are willing and able to defend their space if another predator is to come into that space. Now, prey usually don't mark their territory because they don't want you to notice where they are or who they are. They try to move as quietly as possible and stay out of the way. But predators, they want you to know they're there because they're letting the other predators know, don't come into my space. Now, for you, you need to decide what your space is. Again, you're not physically marking your territory. Maybe you are, but you got to decide what your space is. Your space can be more than one place. Maybe your physical home, for example, is a space that you're willing to defend. Perhaps your brick and mortar business or your office space is another that you are willing and able to defend. There's also mean a topic upon which you talk, right? And you could be the one who dominates this topic in this space for these people. Maybe you're the number one bread baker on the west side of town. You dominate that space. So if someone else tries to open up a shop down the street from you, you're going to try to get them out of the space as quickly as possible, put them out of business and celebrate. I heard that Wendy's, remember Dave Thomas from the Wendy's commercials back in the day? He was like this friendly looking, gentle looking old white guy with the silver hair of Wendy's restaurants. It has been said that Dave Thomas, every time a competitor came in and tried to take over Wendy's, or not take over, but try to compete with Wendy's, and Wendy's would put them out of business, that Dave and his team would celebrate putting those other people out of business. All right, so don't be fooled by the guy next door, friendly energy, let's say, or friendly personality that Dave Thomas used to put out in those little Wendy's commercials from back in the day. This guy was a cutthroat competitor. And many other business people, same way. Jeff Bezos with Amazon, those guys strategize to put businesses out of business. They strategize to put people out of business. Sam Walton, Walmart, he strategized to put other companies out of business. Walmart comes into town and people start complaining, well, Walmart's going to put all the small businesses in town out of business. Damn right, that's what they're going to do. That's what Sam Walton wanted to do. He wanted to put other businesses out of business. They did that on purpose. That wasn't an accident. But think of a company like McDonald's. All right. If you open a mom and pop burger shop down the street from a local McDonald's, McDonald's knows about it and they're going to respond to the fact that you did that. And they're going to try to put you out of business. Why? Because it's competition. That's the game. Just because you're already the biggest doesn't mean you didn't become the biggest by letting small fries stick around. You kick them out. You get them out the game. That's how it works. Any of you watch the TV show The Wire, which was showing you some of the seasons it talked about the drug trade in Baltimore. What do you do once you start dominating the drug trade on one corner? You try to take over the other corner, the other one. You get all the drug dealers in town to be working for you so that you dominate the space. This is competitive, folks. And this is what animals do naturally. I'm suggesting that you start doing it more naturally if you're not already. So if a town is dominated by, another example, a popular donut shop, and a competitor moves into town, the local donut shop ain't going to just sit there and let it happen. They're going to fight back. My junior year in college, the coach who had recruited me got replaced by a new coach. The new coach announced that nobody who was on the team last year has a guaranteed spot on the team this year, even the incumbent players, people like me. And when he made that announcement, all of a sudden, a bunch of people who were at the school already and knew about the basketball team but had never shown interest in playing on the team, all of a sudden were interested in playing on the basketball team because they sensed that there was an opportunity. They sensed that there was a weakness in the incumbents because they didn't have a guaranteed spot and they believed what the coach was saying. and there was an opportunity. And us incumbent players, we noticed that there was a threat. Okay, the threat is my roster spot is not guaranteed, and now I got to beat out every boy on the damn campus to make the basketball team, whereas last year it was like 25, 30 people tried out. And this year, my junior year, it was like 50, 60 people tried out. Where did all these people come from? All of a sudden, they thought they had an opportunity. And that's what happened my junior year. This all literally happened. And I took it as a personal encroachment on my space. It took me to a different place mentally. I physically had the ability, but it took me to a place mentally where I was more locked in and focused on making sure I showed up to that, what now was a tryout, to earn my spot, re-earn my spot on the basketball team. And I took it personal that these students who had happily watched the basketball team the year before and didn't express any interest in being on the team, now all of a sudden they have found the courage to try out for the team. I took that personally. So what is your space and or spaces, and what will you do to dominate those spaces when someone tries to come into them, encroaching on what you have built? And this is what a wolf, again, instinctively is thinking about, and they instinctively respond. All right, they don't wait, they respond. So with all that said, let's recap today's class, which is next part in our series on how to be a wolf. Number 13, know how to both lead and follow. Wolves, and especially humans, operate within groups of other people, so you got to know how to be a good soldier so you can be a good general. Number 14, be aware of possible threats. SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. A wild animal who does not notice a threat or ignores a threat ends up paying for it with their life. You don't pay for it with your life when you ignore threats, but I want you to sharpen your instincts to where you are noticing and responding to threats the same way a wild animal does. Number 15, dominate your space. Wild animals habitually and instinctively mark their territories because they don't want their territories encroached on by other predators, and they're willing to fight to defend that space. What space do you own, and what are you willing to do to defend it if someone was to make the mistake of stepping into your zone? All that out the way. Make sure you text so you're in my community. Then go to workonyourgameuniversity.com so you can have me as your coach, get to work with me directly on your mindset, your strategies, your systems, and your accountability so we can get you at the highest level of performance done consistently so you can produce results. That's workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre, all